to do the acknowledgements. So we'll open the meeting with that.
Okay, we would like to acknowledge, we would like to acknowledge the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Taha, the Silk, and the Sinaiks people. It is home to the Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land and rivers and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So the first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and in that we have the meeting agenda, the minutes, and the action list. So nothing out of the ordinary there. So okay to accept the consent agenda presented. Mover, seconder, all in favor? Carried. Are we ready to have the presentation now? Or?
They can't sell them come upstairs.
They're in there.
Put in there?
Yeah.
Ready for it?
Yeah, that's the next item, right?
Yep. Hello, everyone. Hey, it's a bit awkward, I think, for some of you guys there, but
But I think
first.
we want you to sit there so that people can see you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
I think that's why we moved you there.
I don't know if there's been any conversation just to preface obviously we've sent out a letter requesting this, our attendance here. I think everybody's had a chance to read that letter. And
Yes,
so
we
there's
did.
at least a basic understanding of why we requested our participation.
Yeah.
So I guess,
Sorry, can I?
Yeah.
Just because I'm not as familiar and I'm new, if you can just let me know which one you guys who.
I'm Adam, I'm the president, and
My name's Corey, I'm the vice president.
Thank you, and sorry for that.
that's okay. No, there's a lot of new faces. So I maybe what I'm going to do, I think, prior to getting into what exactly it is I wish to request, is I want to maybe provide a little bit of context. I'm going to try and just pick at some main points. I'm not going to read this verbatim or try not to because I will kind of drone on. But I do think it is relevant because I want to kind of set the stage for what will be ultimately the request. And I want your reaction to that request to be grounded in what I think is a very relevant reality for the profession and even more so for Nelson. So just digging around in a few comparable public service industries, teaching being one, nursing being another. Firefighting is a bit harder to get numbers on because they don't tend to hire as many and they don't tend to report labor statistics, or it's not as easy to find labor statistics nationally. So those weren't included. And EHS is another, or paramedics are another similar industry comprising tens of thousands or so across the country and comparable wages. Within those groups, policing seems to be, it varies province to province, but anywhere from 12 to 20% vacancy, while those other professions seem to sit somewhere around 7 or so percent. This seems to be a unique problem for policing. Policing has become very undesirable at a rate disproportionate to similar industries. One of the problems that is unique to policing is that one of the drivers for policing for, I think, going back many, many decades has always been sort of an innate drive that somebody has to do the job. And that innate drive has been eroded by public distrust. And most of that public distrust has been flamed or fanned, rather, the flames of that have been fanned by media and politicians. So we're at a point now where nobody wants to do the job. The people who are in the job are looking for ways out of the job. Even speaking to a lawyer recently who does a lot of labor relations within the policing profession, she's saying that this is something that she is seeing anecdotally, that people are looking for ways out. They don't want to be in the profession anymore at all. So Nelson has always been able to get people in here by the use of some of the benefits that draw everybody in, really. The scenery, the mountains, the cost of living, which at one time was pretty good. All of those things are no longer relevant today. People are not drawn here to do policing for those reasons. Additionally, one of the other things that we had going for us is that we were kind of regarded within the policing profession as being sort of a sleepy town where not a lot really happens. And I can say over the last, well, certainly since I've been here, there's been a steady climb in our calls for service. I know last year was our highest call for service at 70, 72, 79 calls, I think. We're projected this year to be closer to 8. We're already 1 month ahead of last year. And I know that our calls for service, if you adjust it on a per member or per officer rate, we are, 2 years ago, we were second highest to Victoria. I don't have Victoria's numbers right now, but I know we're more than double Port Moody. We are more than double Oak Bay, and we are even more than Williams Lake, which carries some, the rather unfortunate distinction of being one of the highest crime rates per capita in the country. So Nelson is not the benefit of recreation, scenery, cost of living, or a relatively easy career. None of those, all of those excuses that used to draw people here have all eroded. And with all of that, we are now competing for an ever shrinking labor pool, which has us up against cities with massive budgets and pretty nice compensation packages. So as you guys know, we've just recently lost probably one of our best exempt hires in the last couple of years. He's gone off the RCMP. This has followed a trend that is going back to at least 2022. But I know our president at that time, Drew Hildred, he walked into day one of negotiations and basically explained to the whole group, and he was referring to himself, I, among 6 to 8 others, are going to be leaving for the RCMP. And of course, it was a rather bizarre way to start negotiations. And I don't know that anybody really believed him at the time, but he was fully, that was completely true. In fact, he undershot by quite a bit. We lost, I don't know, what have we lost over the last 2 years? 16, maybe? We certainly lost more than, if you include the 2 unfortunate deaths, we've certainly lost more than what? Yeah. We're hearing right now rumors that there are 2 to 3 more people looking to move to the RCMP as well. We're already at a point right now where, we're at a stage right now where I really think that we are on the precipice of being non-functional as a police department. Our GIS section is completely collapsed. We don't have anybody in GIS at the moment, the general investigative section. All of our resources currently are devoted to patrol. We don't have really anybody in URSU at the moment. This is a comment to the RCMP aside from Corey, and Corey's being pulled back routinely. Patrol, which is the core of the job in any city, is just basically running on fumes at the moment. And every single time we get news that somebody else is leaving, it just serves as a reminder for those who are still here that need to do the same. Because it just takes their workload and now spreads it across everybody else. I know my workload has gone up tremendously that's due to him. I've got a whole bunch of files now that I have to do that used to be done by other people. And so we can only expect that as this happens more and more often, it is only going to heighten the need for others to do the same, especially given the fact that we know that there are only so many vacancies in the RCMP within the local area. And as we lose people to those vacancies become fewer. And then there are fewer opportunities for those who want to move on to the RCMP. I would anticipate that if we cannot right course, we are not going to lose just 2 or 3. We're going to lose significantly more than that. And we are not going to be able to get ahead of this by the hiring practices that we've utilized over the last 2 to 3 years. I think we are dangerously close to having to have the province step in and do something drastic, because every single time we have heard that people are looking to leave, and we've been hearing this routinely over the last 2 to 3 years, every single time it turns out to be true. So we know it's 2 to 3 more. That's what we're hearing. I was skeptical the first time I heard it was 6 to 8. I fully believe it is another 2 to 3 more. We also don't want to be in a spot where, in order to plug the holes, we are forced to hire 100% of those who apply. And I know that we currently have a couple of applications. I think it's a very dangerous precedent for us to have to hire 100% of those who apply. We should have a healthy pool of people applying for a position here.
And not only the recruits, but the executives as well. I'm not sure it's known in this room or not, but a lot of the senior members can retire in the next 5 years. And that's going to be a lot of experience. We're really lacking in having members that have as much experience as some of us older guys that can come in and fill that gap. So right now, we are very bottom heavy. We have a lot of recruits and a lot of people that have under 10 years.
Yeah, there was a huge exodus, and it was largely the one that Drew Hildred spoke of. I think something like 6 or so people left within a short period of time. I think we lost somewhere around 150 or so years worth of policing experience that was replaced by about 20. And one of those people who made up a portion of that 20 has now left. So we're simply not able to attract enough people, and we're not able to attract enough of the right people. And yeah, we are in a position where we don't have really anybody working. We have very few people working patrol who can make good, prudent, informed decisions when it really matters. And investigations kind of live and die based upon the decisions you make, or many of them, based on the decisions you make on patrol. So I guess what we're here to do is to let you know that our membership has come to us over the last little while, especially since there's news that one person is leaving, a person who is highly respected and, like I said, one of our best hires in a while. A lot of people have come to us and said, what on earth is happening, and what are you guys going to do about it? Meaning us. What are we going to do about it? And there's very little that we can do aside from come to you guys and plead with you to take up this cause. I guess what I want to get out of this is I want to be able to go back to our membership and say either A, yes, the board is on board to do something big to correct this problem quickly and that we have a plan, or B, no help is coming anytime quick. You guys can, do whatever you need to do. Look out for yourself. If that means sending in those applications that are sitting on your desk, tucked away, then do so, because there's no help coming soon. I want to be able to come to them and say, we've settled on option A. We've got a plan, and that we're willing to do bold things. And I know that the city historically has been one of the bulwarks against doing big things, because in years past, it has been, I think, sort of trained into our board. I know we're talking about a lot of people who are no longer here, but the city has done a very good job of convincing the board that you cannot act independent of them. Everything that you do, you must go to the city and ask for permission to do it. And that's not the case. You guys are meant to work and operate much like, say, the Bank of Canada. You're independent of the city. You guys can largely make decisions. I would grant that there are situations where you can't just do whatever you want, but what we're suggesting is that you're going to have to make some decisions that city managers might not like, because they will come with costs. But ironing out the consequences of those costs, ironing out the funding of those costs imposes time limiters that we don't have. So again, if I have to go back to the membership and say we might have something in the works, but it's going to be 6, 8, 12 months away because we have to, we have to go through this long, lengthy bureaucratic process, then to me, I'm telling people, get ready to move on because there's no help coming. We have a couple of proposals in mind that have stemmed from a meeting that we had last night. We have come up with 2 options that we think would very quickly and efficiently attract attention to our department in a way that probably would give us enough applicants that we could very easily fill all of the holes very, very quickly with qualified people and not having to just fill them with,
What we get.
with what we get. Exactly. One of these proposals, I lean more heavily towards one. I certainly don't want to suggest that we are heavily invested in only our solutions. We are wanting to come to you guys and ask, put these in front of you for you guys to dissect. But to hear from you as well, what other ideas you might have. So what I can tell you is that one of the biggest hurdles to Nelson is that nationally, no one knows we exist. And provincially, everyone knows we exist, but we are not competitive within the landscape of policing. We know that when Surrey, for example, settled a contract, which was a pretty decent contract at the time, we were seeing people jumping from across the highway to go to Surrey because they could make a few $1,000s more. So money talks and all the rest of it, most people don't, they just kind of ignore it. They get to their new department and they find out what the benefits are and all of that stuff. We've heard that from people who have come here from out of province. They looked at the money and they looked at pictures of Nelson and thought it looked nice, and then they get here and they realize that the benefits are maybe way different than what they came from. It's not one of the main considerations when they come here. They're looking at money. So with that in mind, having us clumped together within the provincial mean is not what I think will solve the problem, because there needs to be something over and above that would attract people away from the Lower Mainland up to here. And I think going into negotiation season, which we have put our intent to do, I think is an opportunity for us to maybe go a little bit off course from where we initially were hoping, which was, to go into sort of a protracted negotiation and iron out a whole bunch of different things. I think, given the nature of this most recent departure and others that are rumored to be, what we are offering as, I think, a very quick fix and one that we have somewhat costed, and I think is actually cost effective despite the fact that you're about to hear a rather large number. The proposal is for a rate of 130 for first class. It would be for a 1-year contract with a Me Too clause to Oak Bay, red circled, of course, that 130 wage red circled until Oak Bay catches up, and then we climb together. And that would be our proposal. The reason why I think that will work and that will attract tons of attention is because when contracts are signed and when they are distinct, they get national attention. You'll even see in the news articles from about contracts for departments you've hardly ever even heard of because of the size of the contract.
Just add that we did explore some other options as far as moving expenses and increasing the wage a bit, but every other department is doing that. And so if somebody could go from Vancouver to Surrey, why would they come here for $2,000 more? Or a moving expense for pulling the family away from a bigger center to come here. We need to incentivize, make it worthwhile to get here.
Yeah.
So that's why this bigger number is coming out. And I know it's a bit of a shock for everybody. And when we discussed it, it was a bit of a shock for me too. But as an experienced police officer, if I'm gonna go somewhere else, it's gotta be worth my while to go.
It's also the marketing of, if nobody is going to, there will be no national headline that says, breaking news, Nelson is now average, or Nelson is now competitive with the other provincial municipal departments. Like, that will not happen. No one will carry it. We'd have to pay probably many thousands of dollars to get CBC to carry that on as a headline. But they will carry Nelson Police Department, highest paid in the country. And the difference in cost is really fairly minor when you consider that we are spending, I think our historical OT budget was somewhere around $100,000 per year. And chime in if I'm wrong, but I think it's somewhere in that range. And over the last 4 years, I think 2024 is not completed yet, but we're kind of sitting in that range of about $250,000 per year in overtime and leave cancellations. And that's not factoring in the turnover rates, which have been excessively high and all cost quite a bit of money, and equipment that we have to procure for every single person that comes in. So that $250,000, I would think it would probably be, you'd probably add on another $25,000 in training costs and equipment and all of that stuff. And by all means, jump in if I'm completely off base here, but those are roughly the numbers that we're playing with.
Pretty accurate.
We have, and these I've rounded everything. This is all just rough, but if we look at end of contract, the current contract we're on right now with the 5% bonus that has already been agreed to, if we were to stay at that, and this is assuming that, let's say we have no new hires between now and then, the difference between that scenario and implementing the scenario that I'm proposing, and also assuming no effect from that either, amounts to a loss of $135,000. So we would cost an extra $135,000 to accomplish absolutely nothing, and that would be a worst case scenario. The upside, which is what I think will happen, I think it would be quite shocking to me if we did not get flooded with applications. We would fill our roster. It would cost us somewhere in the range of about $214,000 in additional wages. That's not factoring in like pension contributions and things like that, but just taking a look at just wages alone, about $214,000. That would fill our roster, and that would, I think, negate the majority of our overtime expenses. Not all of it. There will always be some, but a lot of our overtime will be gone. Obviously our training, having to train people who are coming here, say somebody comes in from Calgary, that's about, what are we doing, like 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks generally of training, where they don't even count as a full body.
More like 4, but 4 to 6, depending on competency and experience when they come here.
So that is something that is happening on a continual basis. We're constantly having people coming in here, and we're paying them full wage, and they don't count as a full body. So that would be another, I guess, one of the other numbers to consider here. $214,000 is roughly what I would project this would cost, and we also have to bear in mind that our contract negotiation coming up is going to involve some increase. So that $214,000 begins to look a lot less like revenue neutral, or cost neutral, I should say, than a massive increase in your budget. The other option that we did fool around with is our signing bonuses. That was discussed last night as well. I don't really have a lot to say. I can say it, signing bonuses, probably maybe a little bit easier to budget for. It would have to be an amount of money that is going to be attractive to get people here. I would think for each person, probably somewhere in the range of about $20,000.
Which a lot of other departments are doing too, so it doesn't really stand out.
And to the bigger point, really I think the hardest part for Nelson is people don't know to come here, And when they find out about us, they don't really see anything super appealing about the compensation package. And how do we get that message out there that we have a $20,000 hiring bonus? And does it help with retaining the people that we have?
I mean, we have had experienced members come here, they look at the real estate market, and they say, we can't afford to move here. It's too expensive. They don't come. Or if they do come here, they can't afford to buy anything. So they look for other options. And we've had 3 members that we didn't even get, 2 years out of each of them?
Yeah, I went to yours.
There's
There's another thing too that it's never talked about, but it is a reality. It's the fact that when you do have people looking to leave, it has a negative impact on the policing service that is provided while they're looking. Because unfortunately, it's just the reality of policing. Everybody is constantly under threat of being investigated for something. And nobody will look at you once you're under investigation. So I know this anecdotally from talking to plenty of people who have left, that the amount of proactive work you're going to get out of them is going to decrease to virtually zero. They don't want to take any risk. They're not going to do anything that they don't have to do as long as they think that they have an opportunity to leave. Because the moment they get a complaint, and those complaints happen all the time, the moment they get that complaint, that application is halted, and they're sitting there in sort of occupational purgatory until something is resolved. And that can take 6 months, a year, 2 years, or more, who knows. So the quality of police work goes down as well for those who wish to leave. So in short, really, what we're asking for is for the board to put in some consideration into doing something big and doing something quickly so that we can assure our members that something is being done. And for those who are maybe looking at leaving, give us a little bit of time to make it worth your while to stay. That's what we're asking for. I think unfortunately it is going to require something big. I don't think it can be small gestures. It's going to have to be something bold. Something where there's going to be maybe some risk on your guys' end in order to make that, in order to make this happen. So I guess maybe in closing, I would like to have, I don't want to go back to our association members and sit, I don't expect to go back to them at the end of tonight and say, all right, guys, we got ourselves a deal, or there's here's a proposal or anything like that. I don't expect things to happen that quickly. But I'd like to be able to say in the next week to 2 weeks, we can hear something from our employer so that we can go to our membership and say, help is on the way.
Any questions?
I have a question. So just to be clear, this is not you setting the table for collective bargaining. This is something you're asking for outside of the collective bargaining process. Is that correct?
No, so let's see, when was it roughly that I submitted that letter to you guys? I think it was probably about a month ago, our intention to go into negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I expected us to go into negotiation and try and resolve a contract by before this one concludes. Once this happened with our recent departure, if we go with the option of let's go with a high number wage, then that would be the contract. It wouldn't be outside of the contract, it would be the contract. So we would enter into a 1-year contract, and depending on the appetite of the board and the association, it can even be opened up early, so it can be effective January 1st, or we would make it effective July 1st, which is the current expiry. But it would be a 1-year contract with the only resolution being a wage adjustment, one that I mentioned.
I think there's a clause in the CBA for reopening.
Yeah, as long as it's agreed to by both sides, we can reopen early. So that would be the contract. It would be a 1-year contract. It does not mean that our association thinks that we should be the highest paid in Canada in perpetuity. We don't. But in a market where we have where every single department in Canada is struggling to find people, we have to somehow stand out as being distinct. And our labor supply, our labor shortage in Nelson has oscillated between anywhere from like 20 to 50% over the last 2 years. We are like, we're just not providing good, the same quality of service for dollars spent that we used to be able to, because we can't provide the proactive work that we used to be able to do. It's just running from fire to fire to fire, putting them out, and then just go home and reset and do it again.
Which is also leading to a faster burnout rate for the members here. Because they're going nonstop. It's called a call to call. And that's leading to, you're seeing these higher numbers of higher call load for members. When I came here in 2007, this was like Adam described. It was the sleepy little place. We had our quiet times during the winter time. Last 6 years though, this place has exploded as far as calls for members.
So sorry, I mean, I guess to crystallize my answer, it would be, if we were to look at that first lot that I talked about, that would be a contract, just be 1 year. If we were to look at things like signing bonuses or other ideas, then they can be supplementary to contract.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Can you tell me what the rate is for RCMP? Like everybody's going to the RCMP. Are they getting $20,000, $30,000 more than a Nelson officer, or is the job easier?
What I'm hearing, they're getting more. They get paid more than we do. Their benefits are better, and it's easier.
So depending on how you want to, like, if you're looking at base salary, the RCMP are sitting at roughly the same, I think, that we're at right now. The RCMP, however, one of the draws that they have, and this is one of the things that numerous people have talked about as being one of the big bonuses they get. They're getting paid an extra $20,000 to $30,000 a year just being on call. They have an on-call rate of $1 per 4, which so works out to roughly whatever your wage is. Let's say $60 an hour
per 4.
Or sorry, what is it? Okay. Yes, that'd be like BC ambulance rates. They're getting, 1 hour per 4. So they're sitting at it, they get a quarter wage to sit at home and wait for a call. So they make an extra without even getting the call outs themselves, which immediately puts them on, I think it's double time or time and a half.
But base salary, I'm just asking about base salary. I know there's all kinds of perks within contracts that.
I think they're around, I could be wrong. I believe it's around the same price, the same that we're getting right.
Yeah.
They're about
Now,
2,500 a head. They're
Are they?
at 118. So
Okay.
I mean, and one other draw to speak of for the other departments is you come to Nelson, it's your general duty for the majority of your career. There's not a whole lot of opportunities for going to special movements here. It's GIS, general duty, or if the opportunity arises. And not everybody wants to do GD for 20 years.
In speaking with one of the people who went over to Nelson Rural as a GD constable, they told me that one of the, and they didn't leave here disgruntled. They didn't leave here angry at anybody. That wasn't the reason why they left. They told me that one of the big bonuses outside of the on-call pay that they're getting, which is not something that we offer, and it's not something we're asking for. But in addition to that, when it comes back to workload, they said it's manageable. I'm finally able to actually manage the workflow as opposed to constantly having to, in many cases, having to write stuff off because you simply don't have the time. You can't fabricate the hours necessary to do proper investigations. So, this individual was just happy at knowing that he could manage it.
Any other questions? Anything got Chief?
I just want to reiterate that when you're looking at comparators for money, I understand why you would look at, say, I don't know, whether it's Vancouver or RCMP or anybody else, and say, how on earth do you justify $130,000? I can fully appreciate why somebody would look at that and say that, but I can say that the benefit of being distinct is it's like nobody remembers the 100-meter dash unless it's Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt stands out. Everybody else is clumped towards an indistinguishable, range that most of us could care less about. Unless you are that one person who stands out, nobody remembers, and nobody is going to carry the news of our plight unless we stand out. So it's about grabbing attention. We're asking for 1 year. You can spend we're going to settle on a higher contract anyways. So whatever the difference is between where we would naturally settle through standard contract negotiations and what we're asking for, arguably that's the amount of money that you'd spend on advertising to get the people you need here anyways. I think this is a quicker way of doing it, a very quick way of doing it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, you two guys.
So should we just leave that to have further discussions here? Okay, so we'll move on to the next item. It's the business arising from previous minutes, a report from the HR committee, with Jane and Eric.
Sorry. My head's still back in that conversation we just had, or that presentation we just had. Can you repeat here? We're doing the HR
It's our
committee.
update, yeah.
Yeah, update. I think it's got to do with the chief's evaluation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think Jane did a good run through, and then I looked at it today and updated it.
Yeah, we had hoped to have a draft for you, and I was a little bit behind because of being away and an unexpectedly difficult away. So I just got that stuff to Eric, very recently. So we're just what we're going to do is provide a draft of the updated chief evaluation form for you to look over. It'll be sometime probably next week, well in advance of the next meeting anyway. And then we'll get your input on the draft. But it's looking good. Like we've got it to a good place,
I think normally that's done in camera, right? Like the
Totally.
NHR stuff, but the idea of bringing it to this
Yep.
meeting was just to let the public know
Yep.
that we're on it, there's a plan, there's a process.
Yeah, so we are updating our chief evaluation document, and we have the benefit of looking at other police departments' chief evaluation processes across the province, including Surrey's, which is relatively new, of course, because they have a new police force. So, I would say that the changes we are making are substantive in terms of format and making it much more clear, but we had the basis of a good evaluation. It just was too long and too wordy, and now we're changing the format so it's much more readable and easy for somebody to follow. So I'm going to have that to you shortly.
And it's in line with the strategic plan.
Yes, that's right.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the other update we had to do, was to make sure it was in line with the strategic plan.
Moving right along, Chief's Constable report. I don't think we got a written one.
No, unfortunately, I did do one and sent it a couple times to Shiloh, and then technical issues, for some reason it disappeared. So I didn't have a lot anyway, so I
That's
just thought,
okay,
and I wanted to show a couple pictures, so I just thought that would be, might as well do it.
Okay.
So in regards to the BC AFCP and BC ACP meetings, that I was supposed to be attending that conference last week after the third flight got canceled. I called the trip, and in some ways was good because I had no shortage of things to do here, so it was probably more productive being here anyways. But because of that, I don't have an update, so I'm waiting for the minutes that should be out in the next couple of weeks for that meeting, and if there's anything significant within that, I'll report it on the next board meeting. I wanted, and I know Raj sometimes or may still have a CSO update on top of this, but I just wanted to comment on the CSO and some of her work in the last month or two. Again, just doing a lot of excellent work, a lot of, organizing different community events and then attending other events and community initiatives that were put on by others, but definitely making herself known out there and being part of those. One of them, if you can go back one picture, just the 12 Days of Giving is kind of an annual thing that we run here. And if you're not familiar with it, it's all the emergency services work together as a toy drive and a food hamper drive for less fortunate families within Nelson. Great event. It's always very well received. The Adventure Hotel puts on a fantastic breakfast and stuff. So this is in the pictures in the parking lot of the Adventure Hotel. The police truck's right in the middle, but all you can see is the light bar on the top there. But that was sort of the emergency services and volunteers that helped put that together, and Santa in the sleigh in the middle of the picture. So again, was a great success. Our CSO still got a bit thrown into that at the 11th hour, and again, she obviously worked with a lot of other people to help her, but she did a fantastic job at making sure that happened again this year. And then the second event I attended with the CSO as part of the Salvation Army's kickoff event for their Christmas kettlebell service or initiative for donations for the Salvation Army. So that was just down at Save-On. So again, great community work and a good department representative. That's it for my open report. Yeah.
Okay, wait, we have to pass the motion to accept the chief's report. Jane and Devon, all in favor? I'm assuming that Janice, you're in favor, right? I don't know.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, the deputy's report. That's a written copy, but if you want to go over it.
I can ask any questions. If anybody's got a question on the report.
Yeah.
Maybe we could hear a little bit about how well the Youth Police Academy went.
Yeah, it was a 4-week program. It was very received very well.
4 weeks, you said?
Yeah, four weekends. So we're working on 4 Saturdays all in November.
Nice.
And Silk did a tremendous job. She had a great curriculum, 3 hours on a Saturday morning from 9 to 12. And at the end of it, there was 12 participants and all graduated and had a tremendous experience.
Oh, that's great. What kind of stuff did they do?
Talked about forensic identification, talked about investigations, use of force, applications, investigations just in general. So yeah, it was well received.
Cool.
Came one weekend, like we sort of split up between different people in the department, and then obviously the RCMP assisted with the forensic ident piece. But I came the weekend that the forensic ident was here. He did a fantastic job too. They were really into all that, and I gave a presentation just on the different opportunities there are in policing, because a lot of people don't realize how many different specialty things you can get into in policing. So just to kind of open them up to think, well, if you're an accountant or you like accounting stuff, there actually is a place for you in policing. Or you like flying drones, or you like flying airplanes. Like there's so many different roles you can get into other than the traditional roles that you see on TV and movies and stuff.
I have a question about the restorative justice. You say Bob Linson has relaunched the program. So what does that look like? Relaunching, what do you mean?
Well, she just basically, the volunteers are back up. It was on suspension for a while there, or
Okay.
postponed.
Yeah.
So now she's taking in referrals again, and
Oh,
the
okay.
volunteers are back in play. And
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Deputy? We have a motion to accept his report. Eric and Christine. All in favor? The next one is Director's Report. next item. The BC Association of Police Boards, we had I'm a member, the rep, so I'll speak to that. We met on November 22nd, and two things that I'd like to report on. One is the annual conference, just as a reminder. I think of us have saved the date sent out, right? So just a reminder that it goes for 3 days from the 7th to 9th of May. And it's going to be in Delta. And the format will be much the same with a symposium, workshops, and some breakout groups for discussions, whatever. So I'll bring, they're looking at topics that they'll be covering, so I'll bring some stuff back when we have more information. And the other was very exciting in that I've been here for 5.5 years, and we've been trying to get more money for the JIBC Police Academy, and apparently the provincial government has agreed to give them more money, so there'll be more sessions, I think, the training sessions. But they're not, because the word came out after the election rather than before, the academy itself is not prepared to start right away. So I think it'll be a few months at the September session or something that they'll start having more room. But I did raise the issue about more support for rural communities like ours, and whether we're going to get money to support our recruits to attend. And unfortunately, no, but I did, kind of let them know that communities like Nelson have extra costs when we send out people. Like, as they're going to do some satellite programs, I think, but it won't benefit us, because for us, it'll still be having to send people away. Nothing's going to happen in Nelson. So anyway, but the good news is for the organization, they'll finally get the money that they've been asking from provincial government.
So the increased budget will largely mean increased number of seats, is that right?
That's
Okay,
right.
great,
Yeah,
thanks.
more courses and more people than attending. Like, like if they had 2 sessions, they're going to have 3.
Oh, yeah,
And also the numbers, yeah.
They have
So they have to
generally
hire-
three sessions a year, but they're going to increase the seats on
Seats,
each session.
yeah.
So
And they seem to, like, they have to hire new staff. Like, that's kind of why they need time, because they were not, they were in limbo, right? Because
Yeah.
if there was a different government, maybe they wouldn't get any money, so. But anyway, so they did get the money, but it's going to be slow getting it started. Okay, any new business, late items? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Christine and Janice, all in favor? Okay. Thank you.
I guess we should have said in the public meeting, sorry, my mistake, that you are coming to a open meeting of city council on Friday at noon to present the police budget.
Yeah, 12:30, I think. 12:30?
And my understanding is that Silk's going to do her presentation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen that before, but in camera.